Well, I actually moved to Los Angeles because I wanted to be in the music industry. I had mixed live sound, and I knew I wanted to do serious studio work because I wanted to understand music. I wanted to understand what it was that music was. So in moving to Los Angeles, I got a staff position at Westlake Studios because not only do they do a lot of recordings with many artists here in the United States, but a lot of international artists come to LA to work at Westlake Studios. So I got to meet a lot of different and varied people. And there's nothing like having a job where you get to look over the shoulders of these famous, accomplished people. It's kind of like being the fly on the wall, and not just being able to observe, but actually being part of the process itself. And in the course of doing so, I started as the assistant engineer on the first Quincy project that I did.
And which one was that?
That was actually the Lena Horne Live on Broadway. And at that time I was kind of learning the ropes. I was finding out the dynamic. Quincy had what he called his A-team. Now Quincy's A-team was those people, that group of people that supported him in his work, that he knew he could call on and he knew exactly what they would deliver. So I got to meet many people, recording engineer and mixer Bruce Wedeen, songwriter, arranger Rod Temperton, and the four of us, Quincy, Bruce, Rod, and myself, would work on these albums. Of course, working with Michael Jackson in the studio, the way I initially met Michael was I was working on several of these albums with Quincy, and one of them turned out to be Thriller. Now, when we began the process, no one knew what Thriller was going to become. But there was one day in my life that was very, very special. And that was a tracking day, meaning we were recording the rhythm section. And that day, I was in the control room and I looked around and I noticed standing on the other side of the room was Paul McCartney. Michael Jackson was there, Quincy Jones was there. Engineer Bruce Wedeen was at the recording console, and behind him was George Martin, the producer of the Beatles. But basically working on the album, we weren't aware of what it was going to become, so everyone was focused on the music. And that was the thing that so impressed me that day, because I realized this is my opportunity to see exactly how these things worked. And the interaction between Michael and Paul, I mean, we have two of the most talented musical people on the planet. But I realized what I have to do is I have to open myself up and understand and observe as much as I can, absorb everything that's happening. Because this is why I'm here. This is why I came to Los Angeles. This is why I wanted to work in recording studios.
So what were some of the elements that you think went into the producing of Thriller, that you think that made it even current to this day?
The thing about working with Quincy and working on Thriller was the focus on music, the emotional honesty of what was happening in the studio. I mean, the crew, we were all working, everyone was doing 110%. Everyone was giving it their all. And at the same time, we had all those elements that went in to make something great. We had great songs, great performances by Michael, great producing, arranging, great musicians, giving great performances. So it was a logical thing that what we were doing would be successful. And reflecting back, it's not surprising.
Yes.
Because of the effort that went in. And that was one of the things about working in the studio, especially with Michael, is Michael had a very relaxed demeanor. He would be incredibly focused on the music. But when you were in the studio working, we'd all enjoy ourselves. He would always bring humor and a great attitude, and let's make this fun. Let's make the experience be one that's enjoyable. You can hear in the music when someone is smiling when they sing. There's an emotional thing that translates. It's conveyed through the recording. Because I worked on many albums with Michael. Thriller, Bad, Dangerous, History. I was put in charge of Eddie Van Halen's guitar solo on the Beat It song.
Wow.
And very often Michael, that was Quincy that kind of had me,
Facilitated
put me in charge of that. But for Michael, it was the same thing, which is why rather than consider myself a producer as such, I really consider myself a facilitator, because it's a collaborative effort to move forward in music. And when you bring different people's personalities, their individual talents and abilities together, what you get is something special.